Hey everybody, we are back. It's episode 74 of the Alfie Whattam podcast. Today, a little bit of a different episode. We're not speaking to technology and software engineering leaders. We're speaking to an expert panel of people that are experts in recruitment, in HR, in hiring, in culture, in CVs and interviews and all of that good stuff. A common request we get on the show is for more of this type of content for people that are job searching and looking for their next opportunity. So we've got an expert panel and a live Q&A today to offer some insights into that area. Before we kick off, as always, we are, of course, sponsored by welovealpha.com. If you're an engineering manager, a CTO, a recruiter, and you're looking to hire software developers, then go to welovealpha.com for Java, C#, Python, React, mobile, you name it. We've got the developers that you need to scale and grow your UK engineering team. As I mentioned a moment ago, post your questions in the live chat, and throughout the panel today, we'll get to them one by one, getting expert insights and advice from our lovely panelists. So without further ado, let's go and do quick intros with our panel members. So today, as I mentioned, it's all about top tips, it's about advice, it's about securing your next job from our expert panel. Louise, could you kick us off, please? Just give us a 30-second intro into who you are and what Andor does.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. First of all, apologies for my terrible voice. I have got the common cold at the moment, so hopefully it won't be too annoying for you. As I said, my name is Louise Dooley. I am based in Belfast in Northern Ireland. I've worked in recruitment in many guises for 20 years this month, actually. So that's been in outsourcing environments, agency environments, and in-house as well. Areas that I've recruited for include public sector, policing, academics, research, and now focus within and/or Oxford Instruments on engineering, software, technology, technicians, product management, marketing, finance, HR, so a really broad spectrum. We have our own in-house software that we develop, so we have quite large software engineer teams based in Toronto, Belfast, and Zurich, and then we have a number of other software teams that work remotely as well.
Awesome, thank you.
That's not too long.
No, that's perfect. That's exactly what we need. Awesome. Thanks, Louise. Helen, what's your background and what does MPB do, please?
That was a tough one to follow, Louise. Hi, I'm Helen. Hi, everyone. I'm the talent acquisition manager at MPB. We are a Brighton-based tech platform, and what we do is we buy and sell used photography equipment, so all about sustainability, which is really good. I think it's nice to be somewhere with a mission. I've been in recruitment for, I think it's 11 years this year. I started agency tech recruitment for a while before moving in-house, and I currently hire tech, marketing, data, seller experience, customer experience, absolutely everything, and have just recently gone through a really big scale up with MPB and did a lot of tech hiring. We doubled our tech team, still hiring a few positions left. So I've done a lot of tech tests, CV sifting, a lot of interviews and stuff like that recently.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Helen. And Alessia?
So thank you very much. And talking after Ellen and Louise, as mentioned by Ellen, is really difficult. So nice to meet you all. I'm Alessia. I'm head of placement in B2B in Epicode. That is a boot camp for IT specialists, web developer, and data scientists working all over Europe, including UK, of course. I've been working in the past 5 years as career coach and trainer. So yeah, as Louise and Helen, I've been seeing a lot of CVs, and before that I've been working for 10 years in talent acquisition and recruiting. So yeah, at the moment I think I'm mainly focused on early stage career in person in the IT world.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Well, thanks all for joining. Thanks all for listening. And thanks to our speakers for taking part. We're up to 482 live viewers now. So keep posting your questions in the chat. And I completely forgot to mention, we've got the thumbs up feature on the questions as well. So please, if you see a question, rather than repeating the same question, thumbs it up. It will put it to the top of the chat. And then that way I can get to the most common questions in the next half an hour. So first question from Sophia. Sophia has an interview on Tuesday for her first graduate technology position, and any tips for her interview. Alessia, you mentioned just then that you do a lot of stuff with junior candidates. So could you take this one first, please? Give some top tips to Sophia.
Of course. So Sophia, first thing first, good luck for this interview. It's going to be, she really is going to, I hope you're going to do it your best. So definitely the first tip I can give you is do your research on the company and on the person that is going to interview you before arriving there, and prepare a list of questions that will show your interest, not just in the company, but also in the position. Remember that the person in front of you is there to get to know you better, and more than anything is there to understand why you are the perfect person for them. Then, of course, make sure to prepare, the classic question regarding yourself, regarding your past, regarding things that you have been doing and you're proud of, and things that maybe were not that successful, but still that gave you a lesson in your previous experience, even if just academical one. I think these are my best practices in general, but getting prepared is the best approach and way to arrive at an interview with more confidence and with greater, possibilities to succeed.
Absolutely. It blows me away how many people show up to an interview and they don't know what the company does. They don't know who the hiring manager is and that sort of thing. So yeah, definitely good recommendations. Helen, what could you add to that? What advice would you have for Sophia?
I think, well, like Alessia said, I think good luck, Sophia. It's always really nerve-wracking to go to interviews, and no one really likes it. It's like going on a first date and trying to, make sure you're hiding some of your crazy. But what I would say, alongside all the really good advice, is to bring your authentic self to that interview, to make sure that you're not putting on a mask or anything. You're going in there as who you are. And I think that is so powerful, because you will shine through and they'll connect with you on such a personal level.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely overlooked advice, but people see through fakeness, don't they? And it's hard to connect with somebody if you're not being authentic. So yeah, definitely well said, Helen. Louise, how would you finish off top tips for Sophia's interview?
Yeah, all really, really good advice. There's nothing worse than whenever somebody says in an interview the company because they can't even remember the name. So definitely knowing the company or organization you're interviewing for. One thing to remember is if it's a graduate role, everybody is at the same level as you. So you're not up against people with 10 years experience. So don't panic that you don't have lots of experience. Also, think about what you've done in university that's relevant to the job, whether that's projects or even group assignments, and also any hobbies that you have as well. We love hearing that somebody says during an interview for a graduate software engineer role, I was really struggling during lockdown, so I went off and did a free course in Java, for example. That shows, that they're actually genuinely interested in it, that they make good use of their time. So don't just think about, say, for example, your placement year. There's lots of other things that you can add that will differentiate you potentially from other candidates as well.
Absolutely. Doing those personal projects, those internships, those side hustles, those are the sort of things that will allow you to stand out if everybody is equal from a graduate perspective. So hopefully that was helpful. Sophia, some really good advice there. Mohammed, we'll go to the next question. I thought this one was quite interesting, a little bit of a topical one at the moment. Mohammed was keen to get everyone's views on quiet quitting. This has obviously been in the news quite a bit recently. It's an interesting one, and I don't know if I myself could ever quietly quit, just because I love what I do so much. So I've always believed that you might be in the wrong career if you're quietly quitting. However, there is obviously the complete opposite argument that people might just want more work-life balance, and quiet quitting is a really good way to do it. So I don't know if there's any right or wrong answer, but we'd be keen to find out what everybody's perspective is on this. Helen, could you, not to put you on the spot, but could you give us your perspective on that?
I did a post recently actually about quiet quitting when it kind of first hit as this buzzword. And I think it's okay if you want to do it, but I think it needs to be a short-term solution. So say you're in a role and it's not kind of the best environment, and you're giving too much of yourself to that position and that job, and you don't actually really care. I think it's okay to put those boundaries in place. And I think some of them are really healthy, like not looking at emails or checking your Slack in the evenings or weekends. I don't think anyone should be doing that. I think where quiet quitting becomes a problem is when, like, say, if you're in the career that's not actually right for you and you're just coasting, like, it's not sustainable for you and it's not sustainable for the company. So I think if you're kind of consciously doing it, I think you need to put a time limit in place of, I'm going to use this extra time to be thinking more about what I want from my life, be it different job, different career, all of that type of stuff, rather than thinking, right, this is the solution to all kind of my problems and stuff. I'm just going to quiet quit and plateau, because you won't find fulfillment in yourself and your job will suffer. And although that might not be important to you, no one wants to get fired.
Yes.
You know, you want to go on your own terms. And I think it's like, I think you need to have a plan if you're going to do it.
Yeah, no, that's a very sound advice. Louise, what would you say on this hot topic?
No, I wasn't familiar with it up until fairly recently, whenever somebody mentioned to me, and I was like, actually, I think quite a number of people have given a lot more during the pandemic in jobs because potentially they didn't have anything else to do, and it was just like, I'd rather do something productive and work, and then that meant working on and on into the evenings when, you know, that's not ideal at all. And then your output then obviously has increased during when you're like that, and then when you're coming back to post-pandemic world and you're trying to go to the gym in the evenings or do, you know, work with your kids or whatever it is, you can't give the same focus and same, so potentially your output's going to drop, and that could ultimately make it look like you're underperforming to your manager. So the main thing I would say is, if you are feeling like this, is to talk to your manager, talk to, you know, or if you can't feel you can't have the conversation with your manager, if there's a colleague or a peer, because the likelihood is other people within the team are potentially feeling the same. And I have managed many people in the past who've come to the point where they've resigned, and I'm like, well, if you had told me, if you had made it clear that there was an issue in terms of the volume of work or workload, or, you know, the resources that you didn't have, we could have done something about it. Whereas if you go into the quiet quitting, you're almost like, you know, you're not giving the organization the opportunity to fix the problem for you as well.
Yeah. Good point about COVID. You know, the workload, everyone working from home, it was just 24/7, wasn't it, for a lot of people? So yeah, that's a good observation. Alessia, what are your views on this trend, please?
Yeah, I totally agree. Well, with Louise regarding the pandemic environment, the pandemic situation that really changed things. Also, I also think that remote working and not remote, like home working, like made a change, because there are a lot of companies that expect that because you are working remotely, you should be, you know, available like 24 hours. And this is not saying, even for people, this is not healthy. I believe that is something that has become more and more common after pandemic and remote. You know, I'm fully remote, so I love being remote, and luckily my company allows everyone to have a nice work balance, allowing us to take our spaces even if we are remote. But I understand that not all the companies are like that. But as mentioned by Louise, I think that talking with the manager, understanding more than anything what's happening is the crucial point of not arriving at quiet quitting. Then, of course, sometimes it's unavoidable, and but in that case, maybe the company, especially if there's more than one person that it's quite quitting, should probably ask what's happening, you know, and reconsider how they're working with employees.
That's a good point. If there's a culture of it across the business, then it might be rooted in something else rather than the individual's motivations. That's a good point. Okay, the number one question in the chat at the moment is from Kevin. How can we help build strong culture with remote working staff? That's a good point. Obviously, something that we've had to adopt to and shift in the past couple of years. Louise, what's your view on kind of maintaining strong culture when it comes to everybody working from home?
Even prior to COVID, we did have a lot of remote workers anyway, you know, so while Belfast is the headquarters of Andor, we had teams based, as I mentioned already, in Zurich and Toronto, but also a lot of remote workers already. And most of them were in the sales organization. So we had done a lot of work in terms of trying to keep them connected, and whether that was spending 20 minutes on a Friday or Tuesday afternoon or something like that, where people just jumped on a Teams call together and just talked about what they were doing at the weekend or what family, or if they wanted to raise a work question in terms of looking at, I've got this really strange scenario. Can anybody help me, or has anybody dealt with this before? Obviously, we've had to increase that activity with lockdown and etc. And what we've done is kind of, you know, things like many organizations have done, like, so say at Christmas or Valentine's and things like that, you know, sending out gifts, you know, sweets, chocolate, even we sent out Just Eat vouchers for people, and because, well, the vast majority of people Just Eat covers, except for the odd few. And really, we made it clear to people that we didn't expect them to sit in front of a computer from 7 a.m. till 10 p.m. Made it clear to people that we understood that there was, you know, childcare issues and things like that. So, and it was making sure that managers knew to communicate that to their teams, because sometimes managers assume that they know, that their staff know that it's okay if they want to go to the gym at lunchtime while they're working remotely, and they don't have to make it appear that they're available at all times as well. We have quite a number of mental health first aiders, and so we tweaked their training as well so that they knew how to support people remotely as well, you know, and that is very much a signposting activity. And then we are doing, like, you know, like lots of organizations, we do the quizzes that are virtual, but we are trying to move more to do things that for people who are on site. So say, for example, once a quarter, we do an employee dog walk on a Saturday, and then people bring their friends, family, parents, kids and dogs, and everybody just goes for a walk, and then we have a barbecue at the end. And it just means that, you know, people can get involved. We do like step challenge, and the step challenge actually worked really well because it didn't matter where you were in the world. We all signed up to one app, and there was a lot of competition. Yeah, you know, it's funny that some of the really quiet people really got quite competitive, and it was just so simple to organize. And then the other thing, sorry, I'm rambling now, but the other thing we organized was a coffee connect, where we everyone signed up, and then what we do on a quarterly basis is we connect two people together, and they have a coffee break. Now it can be virtual or it can be face to face. So it kind of means you can be talking to the MD, you could be talking to the receptionist, the cleaner, a technician, and you could be talking to somebody anywhere in the world. And it really helps build understanding and break down boundaries as well. That's one of the most successful things we've done, actually.
The dog walking thing is very cool. That's I love it.
Yeah, that's
on a weekend as well. Yeah. It's not work. It's just, you know, hanging out. That's awesome. What about yourself, Alessia? As someone that's been remote for a while, you know, how do you help maintain that positive culture within the business?
So that's a very great question for me, because I've been working in the past 4 years fully remote with people from all over the world, really. So of course, it's a bit more complicated to, you know, create a strong company culture when you are fully remote, and you have always been remote, especially when pandemic hit, because you could not have the opportunity to meet with new employees. But I think that the most important thing is to create moments, like not just talking about job, and create moments in general where you see other people. So not working by your own. So for example, we do every morning a little coffee all together. It's just a coffee, you know, with the team where we talk before the stand-up. So we do not start with the stand-up meeting at the beginning of the morning. We start with a coffee where we chit-chat about what we have been doing, where are you in this moment, what you did yesterday night. And then with all the company we have in our chat, virtual channel, audio channel, where you can join and you can see people that are taking a coffee or a tea or something, like, you know, being in an office and going to the cafe and seeing the person from the sales team that can simply say, hi, yeah, I'm gonna be in Ibiza next week, you know, something like that. And it's kind of cool because you build something. Then, of course, as mentioned by Louise, you need to create also like corporate moments where you share the culture, you share the mission, you share the values, you share the goals, the results you are getting, because that this is something that can also motivate the team, but together with a separate pod where you talk with other people about who you are and how life is going, because it is also important to connect not just in a professional way, but also in a human way. We try to do that with Friday beards or Tuesday beards or Christmas virtual parties where we had like icebreakers to get to know each other, because sometimes it's also difficult to get to know each other very well. Luckily, we travel a lot. All the company travels a lot, so sometimes we also see each other in places in the world. So for example, I was with a couple of mates a couple of months ago in Bali, and that was kind of cool because we had the opportunity to meet and to work together for a few weeks, and you create that because you talk with others and you understand the others, and there is no problem in saying, I'm gonna join you in Paris next week. Cool.
That's cool.
Let's go for
The
it.
morning coffees are such a basic but obvious and great thing. You almost want to over communicate, don't you, when you're working remotely? Because if you don't over communicate, it doesn't feel like you're having enough interaction a lot of the time with the team. And there's that one person that can go a week without speaking to somebody, which it seems so weird, but it often happens. What do you think, Helen, on this topic? And I know from your LinkedIn, you've got somebody new joining soon in your team as well. So are they working remotely? How are you planning on kind of keeping the culture going with that person?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a challenge, to be honest. So MPB is a hybrid environment. So you've got those in-office collaboration days and then those remote sides, which is, I think, a difficult thing to balance. And we're scaling up, so our culture is naturally evolving. And so what we've done is a lot of focus on training our managers to make sure that they're engaging with their employees. Like you say, you're not having someone who goes a couple of days without talking to someone. We've also looked at kind of creating like different societies and things. So within our Slack channels, we've got one that's strictly pets, which is where everyone is sending all their pictures of their pups and their cats, which is lovely, really good cathartic, you get good conversations. In our office in Berlin, they have just started an orchestra.
Oh, cool.
There are a lot of musicians within there. So there are too many violinists at this point, but they're kind of evolving on that side of things. And I think it's all about that communication piece that both Louise and Alessia have talked about. So our founder does regular updates over Slack. He's available when you're in person, but he kind of contacts people. He's in touch with people, and you'll get a regular update. This is what's going on in the company. And it's that transparency, I think, that really builds that culture. And yeah, I've not worked fully remote because I was on maternity leave during the height of the pandemic, but I think that it's not going away. And I think that we're on a real evolution, and all companies are, about how to do it right. And I think MPB is doing it really well, but I think we can do even more. I think we need to look at, some kind of, like you say, dog walks on a Saturday. I think people would absolutely love that. I mean, people bring their dogs to the office anyway, but when we're at home, really kind of creating that culture, I think that'd be lovely. But yeah, we're evolving. And with my new starter, I'm going to go to Berlin next week to meet her in person and to kind of have that in person, which I think is important. And then, yeah, beyond that, it's going to be regular check-ins and making sure she has the time to talk about herself, rather than, like you say, you have a one-to-one and it's basically a status update on what you're doing. Yeah, really avoiding that, talking about like, how are you doing as a person? And I think that human quality is what keeps the culture going.
Awesome. Cool. Hopefully that helped, Kevin. Just in the we've got 5 minutes left, so we'll just do the final question from Enrico, and if we just take one tip from each of you on this. He's asking what top tips are on putting together your CV. I think I actually know who you are, Enrico. I think you joined a previous panel, so thanks for coming back. So top tip for a CV, if we get a different one from everybody, that would be awesome, so we can give Enrico the most value possible. Alessia, what would be your kind of top tip for putting together a resume?
So I have a lot, but I'm gonna pick my best one. So first thing first, check the typos, check the grammar, yes. Check the words. That's very important. But I think the best one is if you add some hobbies, activities, things that you like, interests. Don't say lies, don't lie, please. Because if a recruiter watch your CV and you write that you love surfing, and the recruiter, the talent acquisition, the person interviewing you is a surfer and is going to ask you something, you're gonna just be like, no, that was fake. No, that's very weird. That's kind of weird. So please don't do that. Just say true things, especially, in things that are regarding your personal, for everything, but things that are yours, interests, hobbies, things that you love. They're gonna hire you, not the person you pretend to be, as Louise and Helen were mentioning before. So please do that.
It goes back to Helen's point earlier about being your authentic self, and it's so critical, isn't it? What would your piece of advice be, Helen? So CV, spell check, don't lie. What else would you recommend?
I'm going to be specific to tech on this one, because it's something that I'm seeing a lot more of recently, is people who they put kind of a good CV together, and it's like they were, I don't know, software engineer at this company, and then there's literally just a list of technology down the side, and there's no connection to how they've used it or kind of what their skill level within it, what is within it. Someone lists Java, Python, everything. I'm like, well, what's your main language? Are you equal in both? I would say having real clarity over what it is that you're actually going for, specifically when it's a tech position, because people can pivot, but as a talent acquisition person, if I don't know what your main skill is, it's really difficult to filter your CV through. So that would be my biggest for the tech audience.
Awesome. Thank you for that. I think most people watching are developers and work in tech, so super relevant and super important for them. And Louise, to finish off, what would be your top CV tips, please?
Yeah, so I suppose particularly for developers and people in the technical sphere is be mindful that when you're applying for a job, that it may not be a technical person reviewing that CV for the first time, that it could be a very generic recruiter or talent acquisition specialist. So if you're not very explicit about how you meet that criteria for that particular job, you could actually get rejected, even though you have that experience. So just make it very explicit, black and white, so that there's no ambiguity about why you should be shortlisted for it. That sounds quite basic, but I see it all the time when people just make assumptions about their languages and things as well.
100%. Even with like acronyms and stuff, people assume that you know what that means, but they've got no idea a lot of the time. So good shout. Cool. Well, look, thank you so much for everybody for participating, for everyone's thoughts, everyone's opinions, everyone's perspective, everyone's point of view, and thank you to everyone for tuning as well. We got to 714 viewers at the moment, which is great. We don't get that many people live usually, so that's wonderful, and I'm glad everyone got some value out of this. So thank you for watching. Make sure that you're subscribed on Spotify. We've got new webinars, discussions, one-on-one podcasts coming out almost daily at the moment, and it's become the #1 UK tech podcast for software engineers and people seeking opportunities and tech news and all of that good stuff. So thank you for watching. Thank you to our expert panel. Thank you, Helen. Thank you, Louise. Thank you, Alessia. It'd be great to get you guys back on in the future and get some more opinions on what's happening in the world. But thank you for watching, and of course, we will see you next time. Thank you.